Good morning, dear students. So after the long discussion of the paper first of your syllabus, now we would like to switch over to the second paper, and that is British drama. And in this paper, actually, we would like to discuss about the some of important dramas of British literature and what exactly they are, and we would like to understand also some of the important British dramatists in this particular paper. So this paper is going to be a very good and a thought-provoking for all of you, and you will understand about some important pieces of literature in this paper. And as soon as we start the paper, the first block of this paper, you see we come across a name that is very well known as far as English literature is concerned, and he is Christopher Marlowe. And Christopher Marlowe, as all of you know, is a very well known name in English literature. He was baptized on 26th February 1564 and died in 30th May 1593. Was an English dramatist, poet, and translator of the Elizabethan era. Marlowe was the foremost of Elizabethan tragedian of his day. He is very well known for his tragedy writing, and he was a tragedy master. He was the one who wrote only tragedies. He greatly influenced William Shakespeare. He influenced William Shakespeare, who is known as a chief figure of English literature, and who was born in the same year as Marlowe and who rose to become the preeminent Elizabethan playwright after Marlowe's Mystery's early death. Marlowe's plays are known for the use of blank verse and their overreaching protagonists. So as we were talking that Christopher Marlowe is very well known for his, special kind of writing, and particularly the tragic element. He was the one who influenced very much, William Shakespeare, who was the greatest poet of Elizabethan period. Marlowe was born in Canterbury to shoemaker John Marlowe and his wife Catherine. His date of birth is not exactly known, but he was baptized on 26th February 1564 and is likely to have been born a few days before. Thus, he was just 2 months older than his contemporary William Shakespeare. He was only 2 months older than his contemporary William Shakespeare, who was baptized on 26th April 1564 in Stratford-upon-Avon. So, as we were talking, my dear friends, that Marlowe was a chief figure of particularly the Elizabethan period, and he tried to influence Shakespeare through his writings, and he was only 2 months older than Shakespeare was. So both of them were contemporaries, as a matter of fact. Marlowe attended the King's School in Canterbury, where house is now named after him. He attended the King's School in Canterbury, where house is now named after him, and Corpus Christi College, Cambridge, where he studied on a scholarship and received his Bachelor of Arts degree in 1584. He received his, degree of BA in 1584, and in 1587 the university hesitated to award him his Master of Arts degree because of a rumor that he intended to go to the English college at Reims, presumably to prepare for ordination as a Roman Catholic priest, because there were rumors that he wanted to become a Roman Catholic priest. That is why you see the university hesitated a lot in order to give him the master's degree. However, his degree was awarded on schedule when the Privy Council intervened on his behalf, commending him for his faithful dealing and good service to the Queen. And later on, by the interference of the Privy Council, and when they interfered the matter, then he was given the degree because of his faithful dealing and the good service to the Queen. The nature of Marlowe's service was not specified by the council, but its letter to the Cambridge authorities had provoked much speculation. Notably, the theory that Marlowe was operating as a secret agent working for Sir Francis' intelligence service. No direct evidence supports this theory, although the council's letter is evidence that Marlowe had served the government in some secret capacity. Though there was no clear resemblance that what exactly went on, but you see critics guess that he served the government in some secret positions or the other. So this is how actually Christopher Marlowe was a notable figure since very beginning. And Marlowe was christened at St. George Church in Canterbury. So this was the place, George Church in Canterbury, where he was christened, the corner of Old Court of Corpus Christi College, Cambridge, where Marlowe stayed during his studies. And during his studies, Christopher Marlowe stayed at the corner of Old Court of Corpus Christi College. So this was the place where he stayed during his studies and the time of his studies. Of the dramas attributed to Marlowe, Dido, Queen of Carthage, is believed to have been his first and performed by the children of the chapel, a company of boy actors between 1587 and 1593. The play was first published in 1594. The title page attributes the play to Marlowe and Thomas Ness. So as far as the dramas are concerned, as far as the dramas written by Christopher Marlowe are concerned, Dido, Queen of Carthage, is believed to have been the first. This is a very important point that you need to remember, that Dido, Queen of Carthage, is believed to have been the first drama written by Christopher Marlowe, and that was particularly performed by the children of the chapel. It was a company of actors, and it was, you see, performed between 1587 and 1593. So this play was first of all published in 1594, and you see the title page attributes the play to Marlowe and Thomas Ness. So this is how actually it goes in the literary career of Christopher Marlowe, and you see he is very well known for his dramas, as a very important figure of Elizabethan poetry because of his dramas, because of the tragic elements in his dramas, he is known. As we were talking about the literary career, now we would like to understand the literary career in more detail as to what he did in the name of his literary career. Marlowe's first play performed on the regular stage in London in 1587 was Tamburlaine the Great. So the first play that was staged on the regular stage, that was performed on the regular stage, was Tamburlaine the Great, another very important drama by the pen of Christopher Marlowe, and it was about a conqueror of Tamburlaine, you see, who rises from shepherd to warlord. It is among the first English plays in blank verse. Very important point. It is among the first English plays in blank verse, and with Thomas Kitts, the Spanish tragedy generally is considered the beginning of mature phase of the Elizabethan theatre. Tamburlaine was a success and was followed with Tamburlaine the Great Part 2. So as we were talking, my dear friends, you see, he was writing the dramas from one drama to another, and this is how he was continuously writing. And as far as you see, Tamburlaine the Great is concerned, it was also a great success. The two parts of Tamburlaine were published in 1590. All Marlowe's other works were published posthumously. The sequence of the writing of his other four plays is unknown. All deal with controversial themes. So you see, as soon as the Tamburlaine got published, and it was followed by some other dramas, and this is how actually he went on writing. But the particular, you see, the sequence of the writing of his dramas is not very much known. It is obscure. Another very important drama written by, you see, Christopher Marlowe was The Jew of Malta. The Jew of Malta was a very famous drama. It was first published as the famous tragedy of the rich Jew of Malta. It's a very important point. Once again, the famous tragedy of the rich Jew of Malta was a full name. It was published in the name of the famous tragedy of the rich Jew of Malta, about a Maltese Jew's barbarous revenge against the city authorities, has a prologue delivered by a character representing Machiavelli. So it has got a picture of a Maltese Jew who was a very barbarous person for taking his revenge and against the city authorities and all. It was probably written in 1589 or 1590 and was first performed in 1592. It was a success and remained popular for the next 50 years. The play was entered in the Stationer's Register on 17th May 1594, but the earliest surviving printed edition is from 1633. The play was entered in the Stationer's Register on 17th May 1594, but the earliest surviving printed edition is from 1633. So, as we were talking, my dear friends, along with Tamburlaine and Dido, it was also a very important piece of work. It was a very important drama written by the pen of Marlowe. Some important works written by Marlowe. You see, as we were talking about the literary career of Marlowe, so it is very important, it becomes very pertinent to talk about some important works written by Marlowe. And moreover, in this block number 1 of your second paper, Marlowe is the only dramatist who is included. So, this is the only drama, Dr. Faustus, that we would like to discuss hereafter. In coming slides, we would like to discuss about the story of Dr. Faustus and how, what is there exactly. We would like to understand that also. So, Dr. Faustus is the only drama in block number 1. So, it has a, you see, a detailed study. Edward II is an English history play about the deposition of King Edward II by his barons and the queen, who resent the undue influence the king's favorites have in court and state affairs. The play was entered into the Stationer's Register on 6th July 1593, 5 weeks after Marlowe's death. The full title of the earliest extant edition of 1594 is The Troublesome Regime and Lamentable Death of Edward II, King of England, with the tragic fall of proud Mortimer. So, as we were talking, actually, it is a kind of a historical play. It is a kind of a historical play that talks about a deposition of King Edward II by his barons and queen only. So, this is a kind of historical drama that represents the situations of a king. Another very important piece of work is the Massacre at Paris. The Massacre at Paris is a short and luridly written work, the only surviving text of which was probably a reconstruction from memory of the original performance text, portraying the events of the Saint Bartholomew's Day massacre in 1572, which English Protestants invoked as the blackest example of Catholic treachery. It features the silent English agent, whom subsequent tradition has identified with Marlowe himself, and his connections to the Secret Service. The Massacre at Paris considered his most dangerous play. The Massacre at Paris considered his most dangerous play as agitators in London seized on its theme to advocate the murders of refugees from the Low Countries, and indeed, it warns Elizabeth I of this possibility in its last scene. Its full title was The Massacre at Paris, with the death of the Duke of Guise. So, as we were talking, my dear friends, actually, Massacre at Paris has got a kind of, you see, it is known as a dangerous play. It is known as the most dangerous play written by the pen of Marlowe, and it advocates the murders of refugees from the Low Countries. So, this is what is the subject matter of this, you see, very important work by Marlowe. Now, here comes Dr. Faustus. As we were talking, my dear friends, Dr. Faustus is a very important drama written by Christopher Marlowe. The name of Christopher Marlowe and the name of Dr. Faustus, both are synonymous. Both are very well connected together, conjoined together, and they are inseparable. As far as Dr. Faustus is famous, same is the case with Christopher Marlowe. And Dr. Faustus is known because of Christopher Marlowe, and Christopher Marlowe is known for Dr. Faustus. So this is the popularity of Dr. Faustus, and Dr. Faustus has become a fine piece in English literature. It's a very fine tragedy written by Christopher Marlowe. The tragical history of the life and death of Dr. Faustus, commonly referred to simply as Dr. Faustus. The full name, The Tragical History of the Life and Death of Dr. Faustus, that is commonly referred to simply as Dr. Faustus, is a play by Christopher Marlowe based on the German story Faust, in which a man sells his soul to the devil for power and knowledge. Dr. Faustus was first published in 1604, 11 years after Marlowe's death. You need to remember this point, that it is a kind of a story of a person who sold his soul to the devil in order to get power and knowledge. And Dr. Faustus was published in 1604, 11 years after the death of Marlowe, and it is the most controversial Elizabethan play outside of Shakespeare, with few critics coming to any agreement as to the date or the nature of the text. So it is a most controversial text that has got, doubts and dilemmas, that has got questions and arguments about so many things regarding the date of it and the nature of the text, etc. The structure of Dr. Faustus. The play is in blank verse and prose in 13 scenes or 20 scenes. It has got the 30 scenes in the published version of 1604. It has got 20 scenes in the published version of 1616. Blank verse is largely reserved for the main scenes, while prose is used in the comic scenes. Modern texts divide the play into 5 acts, Act 5 being the shortest. Act 5 is the shortest, as in many Elizabethan plays, there is a chorus that does not interact with the other characters, but rather provides an introduction in conclusion to the play and gives an introduction to the events that have unfolded at the beginning of some acts. So as we were talking, my dear friends, that it is here blank verse is used very much, and in some of the comic scenes prose has also been used. So this is how it has got the chorus characters also, those who try to introduce some characters and the introductory part related to the drama. This is the synopsis. So in the synopsis we would like to understand the important theme and the important story lineup and the structure, how it goes, what exactly is all about. So we would like to understand that in this. As a prologue, the chorus tells us what type of play Dr. Faustus is. It is not about war and courtly love. It is not about war and courtly love, but about Faustus, who was born of lower class parents. It is a story of Dr. Faustus, who was born of lower class parents. This can be seen as a departure from the medieval tradition. Faustus holds a lower status than kings and saints, but his story is still worth telling. It gives an introduction to his wisdom and abilities, most notably in academia, in which he excels so tremendously that he is awarded a doctorate. During this opening, we also get our first clue to the source of Faustus' downfall. So in the opening time, we also come to know about the sources of Faustus' downfall. Faustus' tale is likened to that of Icarus, who flew too close to the sun and fell to his death when the sun melted his back and wings. This is indeed a hint to Faustus, and as well as bringing our attention to the idea of hubris, that is excessive pride, which is represented in the Icarus story. So this is basically a story of Dr. Faustus, who was born of a lower kind of family, and he had a great desire for knowledge and for power also. And this is how actually the drama starts. Then later on, Faustus comments that he has reached the end of every subject he has studied. So a kind of, self-esteem, a kind of self-ego comes into the mind of Dr. Faustus, and he thinks that after getting the doctorate and all, after studying a lot, he thinks that he has studied everything. Now nothing is left there. There is nothing to be studied, and he appreciates logic as being a tool for arguing, medicine as being unvalued unless it allowed raising the dead and immortality, law as being upstanding and above him, divinity as useless because he feels that all humans commit sin, and thus to have sins punishable by death complicates the logic of divinity. He dismisses it as, what doctrine call you this? What will be, shall be. So actually he starts criticizing every branch of knowledge, every subject. After studying, he says and thinks that there is nothing to be studied, there is nothing left now. And later on, he calls upon his servant, Wagner, to bring forth Baldes and Cornelius, two famous magicians. He calls upon his servant Wagner to call Baldes and Cornelius, two famous magicians. The good angel and the bad angel dispense their own perspective of his interest in Satan. Though Faustus is momentarily dissuaded, proclaiming, how am I glutted with conceit of this? He is apparently won over by the possibilities magic offers to him. Baldes declares that if Faustus devotes himself to magic, he must vow not to study anything else, and points out that great things are indeed possible with someone of Faustus' standing. So Baldes very clearly says, if he is interested in magic, if he wants to study magic, then he must not study anything. Faustus' absence is noted by two scholars who are less accomplished than Faustus himself. They request that Wagner reveal Faustus' present location, a request which Wagner haughtily denies. The two scholars worry about Faustus falling deep into the art of magic and leave to inform the king. So you see these people come, and because the important character of the drama, Dr. Faustus, was very much interested in the magic and the art of magic. So actually these two magicians got very much worried, and they went to meet the king. Thereafter, Faustus summons a devil in the presence of Lucifer and other devils, although Faustus is unaware of it. After creating a magic circle and speaking an incantation in which he evokes his baptism, Faustus sees a devil named Mephistopheles appear before him. And you see, a devil comes there, a devil appears in front of him, who is known as Mephistopheles. Faustus is unable to tolerate his hideous looks of the devil and commands it to change its appearance. Because Faustus was not able to see and tolerate the dangerous and hideous look of Mephistopheles, so he immediately commanded to change its appearance. And Faustus, in seeing the obedience of the devil for changing form, takes pride in his skill. And because you see the devil was changing his outer appearance and all, then Dr. Faustus became, very much self-appreciating because of his art and all. He was changing his shape and form. He tries to bind the devil to his service, but is unable to, because Mephistopheles already serves Lucifer, the prince of devils. Mephistopheles also reveals that it was not Faustus' power that summoned him, but rather that if anyone abjures the scriptures, it results in the devil coming to claim their soul. So this is how actually Mephistopheles came to him. Mephistopheles introduces the history of Lucifer and the other devils, while indirectly telling Faustus that hell has no circumference and is more of a state of mind than a physical location. Faustus' inquiries into the nature of hell lead to Mephistopheles saying, "O Faustus, leave these frivolous demands, which strikes a terror to my fainting soul." So you see, Mephistopheles was inquiring about everything, and then you see Faustus was inquiring about the nature of and the size of hell, and you see, and later on Mephistopheles said, "Faustus, you should not ask such questions actually, and you should not demand such frivolous things actually." So this is how he tried to answer. And then there was a pact with Lucifer. Using Mephistopheles as a messenger, Faustus strikes a deal with Lucifer. He is to be allotted 24 years of life on earth. He is to be allotted 24 years of life on earth. He was given that he will be here on earth enjoying everything. 24 years he will be here, and during which time he will have Mephistopheles as his personal servant. And during that time, you see, Mephistopheles will be his personal servant. At the end, he will give his soul over to Lucifer as payment and spend the rest of time as one damned to hell. And when the contract is over, when the period of 24 years is over, then the soul of Dr. Faustus will be surrendered to Lucifer. This deal is to be sealed in Faustus' own blood. And this deal has to be written in the blood of Dr. Faustus. After cutting his arm, the wound is divinely healed, and the Latin words homo fusi, flee men, then appear upon it. Despite the dramatic nature of this divine intervention, Faustus disregards the inscription with the assertion that he is already damned by his actions thus far and therefore left with no place to which he could flee. Mephistopheles brings coals to break the wound open again, and thus Faustus is able to take his oath that was written in his own blood. So Mephistopheles brings some coals actually in order to break the wound open again, and because it had to be written in his own blood, so therefore it was done. And you see, then basting his skills, two angels, one good angel and one bad angel, they appear again and again in front of Dr. Faustus. The good angel urges him to repent and revoke his oath to Lucifer. Good angel always says, okay, the time has not gone now. Even now, you can actually repent on what you have done. And you can, revoke your oath that was taken for Lucifer. This is the largest fault of Faustus throughout the play. He is blind to his own salvation. Though he is told initially by Mephistopheles to leave these frivolous demands, Faustus remains set on his soul's damnation. So you see, in the beginning as well, it was told that he had to leave these frivolous demands, but even then he was following them out and out. Lucifer brings to Faustus the personification of 7 deadly sins. Faustus fails to see them as warnings and ignores them. From this point until the end of the play, Faustus does nothing worthwhile, having begun his pact with the attitude that he would be able to do anything. Faustus appears to scholars and warns them that he is damned and will not be long on the earth. He gives a speech about how he is damned and eventually seems to repent for his deeds. Mephistopheles comes to collect his soul, and we are told that he exits back to hell with him. One of the most apparent themes in Dr. Faustus is the battle between good and evil. At the beginning of the play, Faustus finds himself between good and evil, knowing the distinction and consequences of the two, but overwhelmed by his desire for worldly pleasures. Faustus' desire for mutual satisfaction is personified through the 7 deadly sins, who all speak to him and tempt him. Another illustration of Faustus' battle between good and evil is shown through the good and evil angels, which try to influence his decisions and behavior. Although Faustus recognizes the consequences of choosing to listen to the spirit over the good spirit, he cannot resist the temptations of the devil and the worldly and moral pleasures he offers. So this is the story of Dr. Faustus and his, downfall because of his own ambitions and desires. So it was actually chosen path. It was the bad chosen path by Dr. Faustus. and this is how he met with his tragic end. Thank you, my dear friends.